Thanks for checking out The Junction, where we're trying to make connections between Ardmorites. I'm Ardmore Leader News Director Michael Dean Smith. Joining us this week is a Hall of Fame radio announcer, also the chair of the HFV Wilson Community Center Board of Trustees. I think everybody knows a little bit about him, Mr. Cedric Bailey, to talk a little bit about the upcoming Martin Luther King Jr. Day Parade and a little bit about some Ardmore history. So, Cedric, thanks for joining me in The Junction this week.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Now, we do have Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up next Monday, January 19th. I think everybody's pretty familiar with what Dr. King did back in the 1950s and 60s when it comes to civil rights, human rights, really challenging some of the structures here in this country back then. But when you start thinking about the work that he did, what are some of the names, the Ardmorites, that you think about when we're talking about the achievements of civil rights and human rights in general?
Well, definitely, these are people who are trailblazers that done some great things here in Ardmore, and that would be number one, the former mayor of Ardmore, Mayzola McCurson. Mm-hmm. And definitely, you can find out her story that's located in Ardmore here at Fraley Park. Mm-hmm. We have, thanks to the city of Ardmore, Miss Teresa Urban and crew, there is a different design that's right there that when you're walking the park there, you'll see her legacy there. And then also in that same is Mentha Varner. When it comes down to education, with Mentha was able to do in the 60s to make sure that we, as African-American kids, were able to get food, health care, and all those different things. She was like a voice for us, and she did quite a bit during those time periods. And then we cannot forget about the legendary HFE Wilson, who served as the principal of Ardmore Douglas High School back in the day.
Education, I've noticed in researching a lot of the history of Ardmore, education was kind of one of those key things, and a lot of Ardmorites were able to really kind of make their mark when it came to education here locally.
Definitely on that situation, because in 1969, that was the last year that Douglas High School finished during that time period. We do know about Brown versus the Board of Education and how they had to go just to fight to make sure that we were getting everything equally. And Mr. Wilson and all those instructors over at the Douglas building on the northeast side of town were really, really strong into that. So we got to give them all the credit for what they were able to do. I was just a little bitty kid. I remember reading the newspaper at the time period, and they put a listing, and they gave us, I think we had 8 elementary schools. We had a junior high, not a middle school. Okay. And they told us where we lived, what school that we were going to have to ride the bus and go to. It just so happened I went to Jefferson, so I was within 2 or 3 blocks. So I didn't have to ride the bus. I had to just walk, which was no problem.
I know, too, in looking at Oklahoma history as well, probably one of the darker times in Oklahoma history was the riots in Tulsa.
Yes.
The Greenwood District, Black Wall Street, I think is a lot of it's known. What is Ardmore's tie to that historic moment in Oklahoma history?
Well, Mike, I want to share a little bit about how that worked during that time period, because you got to understand this happened in the early 1900s. Mm-hmm. What happened
1921?
Yes, 1921. What happened was the African Americans lived on the east side of Tulsa, and they had their own businesses. I'm talking about funeral homes, restaurant, clubs, everything you needed business-wise. They even had their own banks. They had it all on the east side of Tulsa. But one day, a young man who was shining shoes wanted to go across the tracks and be able to shine shoes. And when he got on the elevator, something happened, and the next thing it just started an outrage, an outbreak that took place. And on that night, which was Memorial Day weekend, then the people that lived on the other side came in there and just burnt everything to the ground. So what does Ardmore have to do with that? Well, Buck Colbert Franklin, who was born here in the Arbuckle Mountain area, I think the area they told me is an area called Homer. And if you go out northwest of Carter County out near Hennepin and Tatum was that area that he was raised in. But later, he went to school at a place called Dawes Academy. That is located where Berwyn was. And at this time period, we call that area Gene Autry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he went to school there at Dallas Academy, and the way they did it back during that time period, all African Americans went to the same class and same school. And that's right where Calvary Church is, and that's where he went to school. And so later on, when he got older, he went to college. And I believe he went to school in Nashville. I believe at Fisk. I had to double check that, but he did go to school there in Tennessee. And when he became a lawyer, he started his practice right here in Ardmore. And currently on East Main Street, because that's the birth of Ardmore on the east side, right there where the railroad tracks are. He had his law office there with his partner. There's a picture floating around here, and I'll have to send it to you, with him right there running his business. Now, how does that connect and go with Tulsa? Well, when the riots and everything broke out in 1921, the people were forced out of their homes. They had to leave their running at night. And so the people got together and they selected Buck Colbert Franklin to be the one to represent them. And so what he did was he set up a tent, him and his team had all their books and everything, and he went to fight for the people that had lost everything that they had.
So he was the lawyer that represented essentially the victims of that massacre.
That's correct.
And had his first law office right here in Ardmore, Oklahoma.
Right on Main Street.
We're talking with Cedric Bailey. He's a Hall of Fame radio announcer, also the chair of the HFE Wilson Community Center's Board of Trustees. We're getting ready for Martin Luther King Jr. Day coming up on January 19th. That's a Monday. HFE Wilson's going to be hosting the parade. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a moment too. But we're talking right now about just some of the historic figures in Ardmore's history. And one that I think I really wanted to bring up too was an Ardmore guy raised here in Ardmore who went on to be a pilot.
A Tuskegee Airman.
A Tuskegee Airman during World War II. And he also did some work, or at least met Dr. King, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That is correct. You're talking about Lincoln Ragsdale. Now, his father's name was Hartwell Ragsdale. They lived in Muskogee, and that's where the Ragsdales came from. And they had the funeral home in Tulsa, right there on the east side. And then later on, when his family left, they sent Hartwell down here to Ardmore, and they established the Ragsdale Funeral Home, which was located like in the 800 block of East Main in Ardmore. It was a green and white building. Everybody knew all about Ragsdale Funeral Home. And so Lincoln went to school at Douglas High School. Now, he was a very, very smart man. And let's just look at it like this. He was so smart that he could have went to the University of Oklahoma, but at that time period, they weren't accepting African Americans to go to college there. So he ended up going to school in Alabama at Tuskegee. And at that time period, that's when they came up with the Tuskegee Airmen. You remember they had the Tuskegee experiment too as well.
The much darker story.
Yes.
I'm very familiar with that one, yes.
Right. But Lincoln was told by someone there, you can do this and you can fly a plane. But he went to school here at Ardmore Douglas and he graduated from here. And as a matter of fact, their family was very much involved at First Baptist Church, where Reverend Lawson is on the east side.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, the history is that was East Street, Northeast. And actually, back in the day, when you look at the maps of Ardmore, that street was actually called Dobby Street.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
And when you look at where the swimming pool is, that is where the home was for the Dobby family.
Okay.
So there were predominantly prominent people who lived in that time period, and the Ragsdales were one of those families. As a matter of fact, when you go into HFE Wilson Community Center, you will go inside and look up and you'll see his father's picture as one of the founding four that established the HFE. But you got to keep in mind, it was called the East Side Community Center. But during that time period, it was just called the Color Community Center.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
When was that renamed for HFE Wilson?
I'm going to have to say that probably was done in the 80s or so. And you go in there and you see his picture in there. He was just an incredible man. As a matter of fact, he became the county superintendent later on. And so I would say it was probably in the late 80s. I couldn't, I'll have some other people to get that information. But definitely it was Eastside Community Center. And then later on, they changed it to the HFV Wilson Community Center, and that's where it stands today. Pretty soon, you'll be seeing his picture in one of the buildings here in downtown Ardmore. Thanks to Create Ardmore.
Yeah, that's going to be a cool project that we're definitely have to follow up with next month whenever it gets underway. For anybody interested in some of these names, some of these figures from Ardmore's history, it sounds like there's going to be an opportunity to learn a little bit more here in just a couple of weeks. Talking about HFE Wilson, though, on Monday, January 19th, we do have the Martin Luther King Jr. Day ceremony being held just after that 10 a.m. parade that'll be going down Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, ending there at the center. The keynote speaker this year is going to be Greg Turner. He's one of the chief broadcast engineers and directors for one of a major broadcast company here in the U.S., also Ardmore High School graduate, 1983. Tell us a little bit about Greg Turner and kind of what we might be able to expect during his keynote speech coming up on Monday.
Greg is a very, very smart, talented young man. He went to school here at Ardmore, and when he graduated, he took his talents to Langston, and he graduated, and he wanted to work in the field of communications. And so, I mean, behind the scenes of production and camera operating, he did his part. Later, he was hired by the company as Hearst Media for one of their TV stations in Oklahoma City. Later on, he took his talents after he did his time there, went to New Orleans, worked at one of the major market TV stations there in the Crescent City. Later, he was promoted within the company, and he was given a position in Sacramento, in the capital of California. He worked there a few years, and now he's regional director for the media company, which is called Hearst Media, and he is now working in Boston, Massachusetts.
Wow!
So he's got incredible career. His mother is a good friend of ours. Her name is Miss Virginia, and if you get out in the city of Ardmore, then you'll see her there. She's been there for quite a time.
Oh, okay.
That's his mom.
Down at City Hall.
Yes, City Hall.
Oh, wow. Small world. Small town.
Yes, but he grew up on the east side, too. As a matter of fact, it's kind of a funny story. His mother and his aunt Patricia, they were our babysitters growing up as kids, So my sister and he are classmates, and they're very close friends.
It's going to be great to have him, kind of a homecoming for him to come back and share some of his experience with us coming up on Monday, January 19th.
Yes, and we can't wait to see him and be here. Now, I do want to come back and let everybody know about the parade. What we'll do is we'll line up at Cardinal Park, and so we're going to kick that off at 9 o'clock. So we'll need you hopefully you'll get over there in just enough time. Everybody have their floats, and what we'll do is we'll take and head straight down toward Martin Luther King Avenue, which is there at the corner where the Big Five apartments, formerly back in the day, that was Mount Zion Apartments. So we'll go straight on down there and get to Martin Luther King, and then we'll make a left and just go straight all the way down there, and then we'll get to right where the viaduct is and come down to F Street, make a left, and go straight on down and head back to the center.
Talking to Jemiah Cody, the center director today, over 30 different floats going to take part this year. And it sounds like, too, this is going to be the first year that the parade, in a while, that the parade actually gets to be held on Martin Luther King Jr. Day and not having to shift it around because of weather. So there's some excitement about that as well, too.
Last year we had cold weather and we had to push it off a week, and it worked out fine this year for us. Weather perfect. It's kind of an unusual year for January when it comes to the weather this year.
Yeah, but hey, if it's going to be warm enough for a parade, I'll take it.
Oh, yes, definitely. Looking forward to seeing everybody there. And I want to add this. We got some key people that's going to be there. A lot of people will show up, and we're going to tell everyone, as you know, we're rebuilding the HFE Wilson Community Center. We recently had a 90K in 90 days, and we want to say thank you to everyone who has made their support to making sure that this project, we're in a campaign where we need to build a brand new center. And so our kids have grown, and we have kids that, when they get 12, then that's the farthest we can go. So we don't have the space that we need for them. We need another gym. We're also going to be concerned about healthcare. And so we're going to have it where we worked with the hospital here at Mercy, and they come over, and we got different people that's coming together in this community to make sure that if a person needs to go to the doctor, we should have a staff nurse that's going to be there to help people to get their blood pressure checked, their meds, and ask their questions about your health. So this initiative, if you go online and go to the HFE Wilson website, community center website, it has the plan, the gym, and everything that we're going to do there. So we have some officials that will be there along with our trustees to share with the community what you can do to help make this a great facility. And we're thankful for the city of Ardmore, going back to like 1948, because I think we're in our 77th year of being able to serve not only the needs of Ardmore, but Southern Oklahoma too as well.
All right. Well, Cedric Bailey, Hall of Fame radio announcer, also the chair of the HFE Wilson Community Center Board of Trustees. Thanks for joining us in the Junction this week to share some Ardmore history and get us ready for the parade on Monday.
Thank you so much, Michael.
All right.